Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. The show's brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com or GEHB.co, and also by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Check out any of those links if you want some excellent VIP content via the written word. It's fantastic outlets, both of them, Cougar Sports Insider and Give'emHellBrigham.com. Thank you for your support of the show. We've cruised past 3,000 subscribers. You guys are the best. Thank you for your support. It means the world to me. Please continue to fuel the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Like the video, share the video, all those things that impress the YouTube overlords. That's what we're all about. Appreciate you guys and your support so much. Today, I want to talk about three things I know about BYU halfway through fall camp and three things I think about BYU halfway through fall camp. We'll start with the things that I know. Number one, I know Kedon Slovis is going to exceed expectations at BYU. And when I say expectations, I'm talking about national expectations for Kedon Slovis, because I think that most BYU fans are generally pretty high on what Slovis brings to the table. But I think if you look at what he's done throughout his career and you look at the external factors in his career, there's a lot of reasons to really believe that Slovis is more comfortable here at BYU than he has been, I don't know, since day one at USC. Let's just go back in time and look at Kedon Slovis's career. He was a true freshman when he got thrust into the starting lineup, and he played exceptionally well at USC. The next year was the funny COVID year, and it was especially funny for him at USC. The state of California had their own set of restrictions. He could only practice so much. They only played so many games. Funny year for everybody, but especially a funny year for Kedon Slovis. The next year, he's there, he's going, he's got the starting job. His head coach gets fired. There's an interim coach. His offensive coordinator is gone. Kind of a goofy season for Kedon Slovis then. Then he gets injured. Now he's in a quarterback battle. That was anything but normal in 2021 at USC. Then 2022, he commits to Pitt. And what happens? His offensive coordinator leaves almost immediately. His top wide receiver, Jordan Addison, a Biletnikoff winner, transfers to USC. And all of a sudden, Kedon Slovis is not playing in the offense that he thought he was going to play in, and he doesn't have the teammates and the weapons around him that he thought he was going to have. Kind of a unique situation for Slovis that year. Now he's at BYU. He committed to play for Aaron Roderick, and he gets to play for Aaron Roderick. That's the first time in his career he can say that he's playing for the offensive coordinator he committed to. He knows what weapons are there. He's comfortable in the offense. He's always had the skills, and I think he's going to put all of that together, and the comfort and the external factors are finally going to shine through and help Kedon Slovis instead of holding him back. So I'm 100% confident that Slovis will exceed expectations that the country has for him. I think I saw a quarterback ranking last week of all of the quarterbacks in the country, and Slovis is somewhere in the mid-60s. That's absurd to me. I think he's going to be very, very good this year. I know that Aidan Robbins is going to be the focal point of the BYU offense. I love Kedon Slovis. I love the wide receivers, but Aaron Roderick has a guy in Aidan Robbins who can shoulder the load, you can build an entire offense around. And I think that's exactly what Aidan Robbins wants. There's not much to say. He's built to withstand the punishment, right? I mean, he can get hit 20, 30 times a game, and he should, right, be able to pop back up. He's 6'3". He's 240 plus pounds. He's enormous. He's big. He's fast. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. Aidan Robbins is an absolute weapon. And so everything that BYU does, even in the passing game, I think will be predicated upon Aidan Robbins and his ability to get going behind that big offensive line. Whatever happens with BYU's offense, I know that Aidan Robbins is going to be at the center of it. I feel really confident in that. And then the last thing that I think I know that I know about BYU's defense, I know the defense will go as the linebackers do. Lots of focus has been on the defensive line, and for good reason. Lots of focus has been on the secondary and where's the weakness, and are they deep enough at safety? Are there enough corners? This defense will go as the linebackers go. Why? Because the linebackers is the one position that I think everybody knows what to expect. They're deep, they're talented, and they're experienced. If that linebacker group can't get going, if they miss assignments, if they miss tackles, then those younger groups that have question marks, I think they're in a world of hurt. The linebackers have to carry the defense. They have to be the heart and soul of that defense. And I think that they will. So whether they perform or whether they don't perform, that's going to be the overall narrative of what BYU's defense is. It starts with the linebackers. They've got to make plays. They've got to get off blocks. They've got to make tackles. They can't miss tackles like they did. They're going to have to get after the quarterback. They're going to have to be assignment sound and their gap fitting and things like that as well. The linebackers, this defense will go as the linebackers go. Okay, moving on to 3 things that I think about BYU right now. I think this is BYU's deepest cornerback room in 20 years. And before that, I don't know. Honestly, I think you could probably extend it out and say 30 years. I'm going with 20 years. I mean, that you get the point. This is a really deep cornerback room for BYU. And I look at a guy like Maury Bamba, who's having a great camp, seems like he's climbing up the depth chart. That's a bonus for BYU because I feel like BYU has really good corners. Jacob Robinson, we know. Eddie Heckard, we know. Camden Garrett, we know. Marcus McKenzie has a ton of talent. Jaden Dunlap has a ton of talent. If a guy like Maury Bamba is climbing on the depth chart, it's not because those other guys are suddenly not good. It's because Maury Bamba has been especially good. So the emergence of a guy like Bamba, along with those other 5 guys, I really like BYU's cornerback room. I think this will be the deepest cornerback room in at least the last 20 years. I think BYU's receivers have enough depth to get through 12 games. You have to expect injuries at the receiver position. When they go up and they get the ball, they're exposing their bodies. They're in vulnerable positions. They're going to get hit and they're going to get hurt. Just the nature of the position. I think BYU has the depth in that room to survive and last a 12-game season. There are the top 5 guys who we all know about. Jace Roberts, Keanu Hill, Cody Epps, Darius Lassiter, and Keelan Marion. I think there's enough behind them that are starting to emerge as, okay, we can count on these guys. I'm talking guys like Parker Kingston, like Dom Henry, like Talmadge Gunther, like JoJo Phillips. I think there's enough in that room that even with the injuries, I don't know that we're going to have to worry too much about the wide receivers as we go through the year and watch BYU play. I think that group is deep enough to make it through a 12-game, even a 12-game P5 Big 12 schedule. I like BYU's wide receivers a lot. And the last thing, I think that the Arkansas game is what is going to make or break the rest of BYU's recruiting class in 2024, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. There are a lot of defensive recruits that BYU is after that they want to see what this Jay Hill defense looks like in production. They've seen the tests, they've seen the demos, but they want to see what it looks like deployed and in the wild and against an actual opponent. Sam Houston State is an actual opponent, but it's not really what I think guys are going to be looking for. And then Southern Utah is an FCS school, but that Arkansas game is the first game where BYU fans and where recruits and where the parents of recruits are going to be able to look at BYU's defense and say, this is different from last year. This is better from last year. This group makes sense. This play calling, this scheme makes sense. That's what it's going to come down to. And there's a use case from a year ago when BYU played Arkansas and couldn't stop anything. So that Arkansas game, if BYU shows really well, I think you start to see some momentum. You start to see some kids committing to BYU. They like what they hear from Jay Hill. They like what they hear from Kelly Papinga. Once they see it in action against Arkansas, I think that's when they start to pull the trigger and commit to the Cougars. If BYU doesn't play well against Arkansas, if the defense still looks as porous as it did last year under Elisa Tuiaki, I think those defensive players start to say, well, that was a good sales pitch, but the product isn't there. And they start to look otherwise. That game against Arkansas is a huge game. Win or lose, BYU has to show significantly better than they did a year ago. If they do, I think that's the start of a really positive run in recruiting. If they don't, I think that recruiting gets really, really difficult throughout the rest of the 2024 cycle. So there you have it, folks. 3 things I know, 3 things I think about BYU. We're halfway through fall camp. The season's just over 2 weeks away. This is exciting times. Football is just around the corner. Appreciate you getting ready for the season and spending some time with us here at the Daily Dose. Thank you so much for your support. And until next time, give them hell.